Hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, whatever it is, and welcome to the latest edition of Views on the News.
Was the Pope appealing for peace or was he praying for peace?
And the same applies to the carrying drag.
Yeah, that's a good question. So what do you have to say about that, guys? As you know, our panel consists of a very select band of the wise and witty, and we all have our own lives. So, of course, I never know who's going to turn up. And I can tell you that David from New York isn't going to be here. He's doing a family thing with some of the junior members of his family. He's in the Lincoln Center right now having a meal. So we don't have him, but we do have from Manchester, Guy Otten. Welcome, Guy.
Evening or morning or whatever it is.
Exactly. Thank you for coming, Guy. And from a different part of South Africa, Tersia du Plessis. Welcome, Tersia.
Thank you, John. Hello, Guy.
You have nighttime.
Yes,
Yeah.
I do. I'm actually looking out. I'm sort of between Pretoria and Joburg.
Mm-hmm.
I have a surprise. I might tell you about it next week, but I have a special going on tomorrow night. That's why I flew out.
Excellent.
And, yes, so I did some traveling.
We'll look forward to hearing all about it next week. Yes. So the first thing I'm going to do is going to be a bit of a break from the tradition here, because I'm not going to go straight into items of news. I'm going to show you an advert for an event which is happening in about a month's time in London. Watch this.
Because it's normal now. There are people who leave Islam and we are ex-Muslims. We don't want to associate with it anymore. And it's a very real phenomenon.
An anniversary, if you will, of the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King. And of course, this is a man who said, and rightfully so, that we shouldn't be judging people by really anything but the content of their character.
In India, there is only one movement which is known as the rationalist movement, which includes all these different shades of the movement. So we call it rationalist. We have a British tradition.
So I guess you wouldn't want me to promote you as a ghost busting service. You know, you don't really want your name to be up there under who you're going to call.
I do get introduced that way quite a lot, and I can cope with it. You know,
what is reasonably certain in the future is that everything we now see will be gone. Namely, that's
this is not tomorrow, though, is it?
It's not tomorrow. No, in fact, we're talking about a time frame which is far longer than the life age of our sun, but that's a long time. That's 5 billion years in the future, and I've made this joke many times because it's about some person like me talking about this, and someone in the audience puts up their hands and says, "Did you say 5 million years?" And the speaker says, "Oh, no, 5 billion years." The guy goes, "Shoo."
There you go. Does that make you want to come?
Well, I'm going anyway, so definitely.
Well, if I can get enough people to sponsor me a plane ticket, I'll be there at the drop of a hat. So yeah, swimming is going to be tough, and Cape to Cairo overland. I don't think I'm up for that.
No.
But in spirit, I'll be there unless there's a wealthy person out there who can sponsor me plane tickets. So I'm available.
Well, that's pretty shameless, but good luck with that.
Well, there was a guy who ran from the bottom of South Africa to the top of North Africa the other day in the news. He just ran all the way.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure I would do. I would do that, but if I start now, I doubt that I'll be in time.
Okay.
Sorry, John. A little bit of light relief for anybody who who might want to sponsor me, it might be interesting to sponsor me a trip, because you know what happened to me this morning. So there were all sorts of hassles. First, when we left the house, it was completely covered in fog, so we had to travel way faster than we would have normally done. And as this was 5 o'clock in the morning, it's still 4:30. It's still pitch dark. And we're just 3 women, and then my friend left her cell phone in the car that had her boarding pass on it. She couldn't remember her Google password. And then as we get out of the car, I realized I left my driver's license in my car, and we didn't travel with my car. So, and I can't get on the plane without a physical driver's license unless I run down to the police station to get an affidavit, because I have an electronic version on my phone, but I have to get an affidavit. So in this process, we had 9 minutes to get to the boarding gate.
Ooh.
And I'm running, and at one stage I just feel something's odd, and I look down and I see. So I bought this shirt just a couple of days ago. It's a secondhand thrift from a thrift shop. It's a very nice top, but I didn't notice that one of the buttons had fallen off, and some of the other buttonholes are a bit big. And when I looked down, I saw that I had come undone up to my navel. So I was running through Cape Town Airport with my shirt undone up to my navel. So I'll just, you never know. It can always be very exciting to have me around and on airports.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Part of a new career, Tersia.
Well, I don't know what to say to follow that, really.
There's nothing you can say. Just button up, perhaps.
Yes, I'm keeping buttoned up. Yes. So, should we jump into the news then?
I think my story is going to be the only highlight, because
maybe.
I don't think there's much
Oh,
good coming.
I don't know. There's some other stuff that you might like.
Let's see.
But it's the usual mixture, mostly horrible. And we start with a horrible thing, because there was a 14-year-old shepherd boy who was looking after a flock on the occupied West Bank of Israel, and he went missing. On Friday morning, his body was found. And the following night, the previous night, the Thursday night, they'd been searching for him, and during which a Palestinian man was shot. And it's not clear whether he was shot by an armed settler, can you imagine such things, or an Israeli soldier. But the boy was no more, I'm afraid. The sheep returned to the farm without him, and Benjamin Netanyahu said, "The heinous murder of this boy is a serious crime. Israeli forces are in an intensive pursuit after the murderers and all those who collaborated with them." So they don't just have a war that they started and, spin-off wars that they're trying to start. They have murders going on of 14-year-old shepherd boys.
And these kind of things have been going on a long time, and the implication is that it's the Israeli settler, the armed settlers, that might have done it. We don't know that that's the case, but that does seem possible, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, what would have been nice is if when this boy went missing, if the local community, the Palestinian community, could have contacted the local Israeli settlers and said, "Look, we've got somebody missing. Could you come and help us to find him?" That would have been an interesting thing to do. I don't know whether they did that.
No.
Maybe I contacted the army as well and said, "Look, we've got this problem. Can you help?"
Yeah, I don't think they talk to each other, to be honest.
No.
Yeah.
It's just such a waste. I don't know what to say. I'm just sort of worn out. I'm a little bit worn out by all this death and suffering.
Yes,
I know exactly what you mean.
Yes, it's all the running around with your top off that tires you a lot. I know.
No, I'd rather run around with my top off. I'll go completely topless in the airport if people would just stop unnecessary gruesome killings.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes. Because he's not much younger than Hanu, is he? Your younger son.
3 years. 3 years.
Yes.
I mean,
There you go.
yeah. I just,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on from that because it's not nice. But of course, what's going on in that Middle East has got us all attending to it, because it's been trying to break out and not just be an Israeli internal conflict, but there was a strike in Damascus, wasn't there? And that was against the Iran leaders in their diplomatic compound, and that was in 1st of April. Then that killed the senior commander in the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. But then there was a reprisal when Iran launched 300 plus drones and a mixture of drones and missiles over Israel, which fortunately most of which were knocked out of the sky by the Iron Dome and some equipment that Patriots and things like that the West has given the Israelis. And more recently since then, because it's a tit for tat, isn't it? So that was Iran against Israel, and now we've got Israel against Iran, when they never admit that they did it. But mysteriously, a missile fell on an Iranian airport and nuclear facility. But fortunately, Iran is pretending that one didn't happen or wasn't serious, and everything is quietening down. But for a while,
there appears to be a deliberate de-escalation going on both sides, which is actually good news.
Absolutely, yes. For a while, it looked like the beginning of World War III.
Mm.
Mm. So we're glad it's quite.
Thank goodness.
Yes.
But I mean, it would be nice if we could have some de-escalation between Israel and Hamas.
Yes, absolutely. More of it. Bring on the de-escalation.
Something, since the focus of this program is it's global atheist news, politics on its own is bad enough, us versus them, and when you add religion into this already really toxic mix, you just get you just make it so much harder to get to de-escalations, because we all hold beliefs about different things, and it's fine to have strong beliefs even, and strong nationalistic political beliefs. I don't think it's necessarily per se a problem, but when you mix into that the idea that my God gives me the right, then you just have, it makes it just it just makes the problems so much more difficult, because you first have to break through all those cognitive biases and all those barriers and say, listen, it just compounds the problem to an extent that that we really don't need, and we can't afford it because we have so many other problems. I know it's not a news item, but I mean, climate change is staring us in the face.
Yes. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
The planet is in a mess. Yeah. And a slightly different item features Salman Rushdie, who, of course, as you know, was attacked in 2022, and he's been recovering. And so he's now got to the stage of having his first interview since he's lost an eye, hasn't he? But take a look at this, because he's written another book which he calls Knife. And he says that's to make the point that words are his knife. So it's double-edged. Take a look at his interview.
I actually thought he'd punched me very hard. I didn't realize there was a knife in his hand. And then I saw the blood and I realized there was a weapon. And then he just started, I think he was just slashing wildly at everything. So there was a very big slash here across my neck, as well as the stab wound here. And there were wounds down the middle of my torso, is 1, 2, 3, like that. And there are 2 on the side over here. And then there was the wound in my eye, which was quite deep. It looked terrible. I mean, it was very distended, swollen, and it's kind of hanging out of my face, sitting on my cheek like a soft-boiled egg, you know, and blind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Yeah. There is an issue about free speech across the world.
Yeah.
And it's not only in relation to Muslims who are very sensitive about any mention or criticism of their religion, but also there's a lot of right-wing fanatics and left-wing people as well, also trying to close people down and react sometimes violently against things that they disagree with. So it's a very widespread problem.
It is.
And I think we do, and it's good to mention it. It's not exclusively a religious issue.
No,
it's a much wider spread. I think basically this is what Tersia was saying a moment ago. It really is a big question. And one of the things that struck me the other day was that if you focus on atheism and religious issues as we do, it is sometimes right to try and get the bigger, wider political and social perspective as well. Because the reality is in this country, in England, fortunately, most people are not interested in religion. It's not an issue for them.
Yes.
So that's good news. But we still are sadly burdened with fanatics for whom religion is important.
Yes. Well, it's through my lifetime I've noticed a decline in the acceptability of free speech. I mean, when I was doing my first degree, it was normal for students to be revolting. But since then, they've become very woke, and the universities are deplatforming and censoring speakers that they don't like. This is a bad move.
Yeah.
Stop this trend. Reverse it. Go back to the 1960s. Good
But it's not just in universities, it's right across the public forum.
It is, yeah.
Something that Guy said that I've been contemplating in the past weeks about this atheism and atheist activism, and I will be an activist for atheism until I get evidence, that I need to go a different direction. But the thing that's beginning to interest me more and more, and you said it, John, when you made me think about it, I think we need to dig deeper than just not believing in supernatural beings or something, some person or entity that is in control. I think the essence of atheism needs to, or the thinking about what atheism entails needs to go almost one step backwards and look at why people are religious in the first place, and that goes to why we think what we think and how we think. And because I think I'm more and more inclined to believe that there are places, that parts of the world where religion is still very dominant, and religious thinking is domineering even the political discourse, and then in other parts of the world where religion per se, traditional religion, has sort of it's not an issue, but that doesn't mean that we as a species we don't have the same inclinations. And now when there's no religion, it doesn't necessarily means that we become rational, sane, skeptical beings. And I think that's what I think. Maybe it's time for another new atheism movement where we focus more on critical thinking skills and on exploring how we process things and how we live together. And we need to go beyond sort of atheism, because and that's something I've been thinking about more and more in my reading and discourses.
I agree. We need to increase the teaching of critical thinking. We want to get people to understand that dogma is bad, whatever it is, whether it's religious or political or national or whatever. Let's go more nuanced, shall we? That would be an improvement. Liberal.
Can I make a plug? Can I make a plug? That's what I love about your event that's coming up. Changing minds in changing times. Because when we change minds, we don't change people from going to from religious to non-religious necessarily.
No.
We're changing the way people go about in the world.
We change them from closed to open.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to mention that we lost a really great thinker who contributed a lot to this sort of thought during this week. And it's a big shame. Daniel Dennett is no longer with us. And you mentioned we need another new atheist movement. Well, I was already in conversation with Dan with the view to getting him to come either in person or on video to the Hitchmas event that I'm planning for the end of this year to commemorate the death of Christopher Hitchens. So that event will go ahead, but unfortunately now it won't include Dan, one of the then surviving members of the original Four Horsemen of Atheism. So we're down to 2. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So, Guy, you mentioned that these protests and events are spreading. So we not only have to watch the Middle East destroying itself, but we actually have to see it happening in our streets. And so we've had protests in London every weekend since the original Hamas invasion of October the 7th, you know that one. And the Jews in London, there's quite a lot of Jews, and there have been Jews in London for I don't know how many hundreds of years.
Since Cromwell's time, I think.
Maybe.
He let them back into the country, didn't he? After
because they were expelled. They were expelled in the Middle Ages.
They were. Yeah.
Well, anyway, they've been very contentedly living in London for a long time, not having a lot of attention attracted to them. But since these marches are predominantly Palestinian supporters, they are now fearing that they can't do what they should be entitled to do, which is, wander about their city like any normal person can. And there's been a bit of a contretemps because one of the Jewish leaders was buttonholed by a policeman as a Palestinian march approached. And this Jew simply wanted to cross the road to go on his business of walking, whatever it was. And watch what happened.
You are quite openly Jewish. This is a pro-Palestinian march. I'm not accusing you of anything, but I'm worried about the reaction to your presence.
For months, we've been told that when anti-Israel protests course through London, it's perfectly safe for Jews. Notwithstanding the anti-Semitic placards, the genocidal slogans, the glorification of Hamas, the Islamist flags, the swastikas, notwithstanding all of that, it's still safe to be openly Jewish on the streets of London during these anti-Israel protests. That's what we're told. And yet, that's not true in practice.
There you go. You see, he was nearly arrested for being Jewish and for being on foot. I mean, there was something a few years ago that was called walking whilst black. I don't know if you remember that.
I'm just wondering, though, John, whether this is an incomplete news item, because one of the things that is clear from these demonstrations is there's quite a lot of Jews attend them because they support the idea that Palestine needs to be free of the oppression and of the settling.
Sure.
So some Jews seem to be quite happy. They are very happy with these demonstrations, but other Jews do take exception and interpret some of the placards in an anti-Semitic way,
Yeah.
and I worry about that, because I think the word anti-Semitism is one of these difficult words, a bit like Islamophobia. It seems to mean whatever you want it to mean.
Yes,
And
yes.
if you think that Israel being criticized means that you're anti-Semitic, then you're going to see anti-Semitism everywhere. But
Yes.
if you think that criticizing Israeli political policy is not the same as being bigoted against Jews, then you won't. So I think it's a huge problem. This
It is, definitely. Well, it is an incomplete news item, because I was going on to say that since then, I think that was last weekend, since then, accusations have been made because the police don't seem to be policing enough. They are letting the supporters of the Palestinian cause be extremely offensive. They're carrying swastikas. They're shouting out shame on you and Nazi, and especially if they see a Jew, some of them. And so it does seem to be unbalanced in that the Palestinian march gets the police backing, and anybody who gets in the way gets, threatened with arrest. And
yeah, I mean, I think the police really don't, are on a loser here. They really are on a loser, because if they try to control the, keep the demonstrators safe and keep the people in the vicinity of the demonstration safe, then they're accused of supporting the demonstration. But if they start arresting people for demonstrating, then they can't win.
Yes, yes.
And it's a very difficult issue, and passions are raised.
Yes.
And that guy was, that police officer in that clip that you showed, what he was actually doing is he was worried about the safety of that particular person.
Yes.
I think he used the word, "You're openly Jewish."
Yes.
Well, that's red rag to a bull.
Yes.
He's entitled to be openly Jewish.
Yes. Yes.
Why can't he be openly Jewish? I mean,
yes. Yes.
I'm openly atheist, but of course I don't look like an atheist necessarily, because
What
I
does
don't
an atheist look like? Yes.
exactly. But, I mean, he had a skull cap on, and that's openly Jewish. Yeah.
So there is a follow-up to this, because, of course, accusations have been leveled against the chief of the Metropolitan Police for not adequately enforcing the anti-hate laws on the perpetrators who are part of the march. And so the mayor of London has now got involved, and he's trying to defend the police who are under his control. And the current head of the police is being calls are being made for him to resign. And so this is all building up to a wonderful heat of storm.
Yeah.
Gee, that's major.
It's a really difficult time to be in charge of the Metropolitan Police. Actually,
Yes.
it's always difficult, to be honest. And because it's in London, it's more politicized as a police force, because it has to protect politicians and all that kind of stuff, and is under the direct control of a political leader.
Yes, I've just had a gift brought to me. You may have heard my door squeaking.
All right, that's nice.
My younger daughter brought me this. She's just been outside.
Well, that's lovely.
Yes, I think it's a blossom from a tree.
It's beautiful.
Yes, it's spring in Europe, Tersia.
It is springtime.
It's autumn in South Africa, and I want to be in Europe.
Yeah.
Yep. Yes, we ought to be able to turn the world around to suit us, of course. So I really want to miss out some of these items, because they're not much fun. this has even been spreading to Sydney in Australia, which is rare. We don't often hear items of a religious nature from that continent, but there was.
I'm not sure this was religious, was he? I mean, did he target the bishop? This stab?
Yes.
Yes. Did he target because he was religious, or was he just mentally ill? I mean, of course, you see, mental illness includes religious delusions. People have a lot of religious delusions, and maybe his mental illness was of that nature.
Anyway, the item is about an incident that happened on Monday evening at Christ the Good Shepherd Church in a suburb of Sydney. And a bishop was stabbed and several churchgoers were stabbed. So the target was definitely, Christian leaders. And a 16-year-old boy has been arrested for doing it.
Yeah. It was an Orthodox bishop, I think, wasn't he? That's slightly unusual.
I couldn't say.
Well, I mean, by the look of his garb, he looked like an Orthodox.
Yeah.
And of course, there are a lot of Greeks in Sydney and Melbourne especially. Huge number of Greeks who are Orthodox. Yeah.
I think the non-existent proverbial devil is in the details in a case like this. Because, what was the motivation for this attack? And the perpetrator is 16 years old, which is very troublesome.
Yeah.
But I think we need to do some follow-up on this, because
we may
maybe
there's
something.
information.
Yeah, very likely that'll come, because these news items roll on and get updated. So yeah, watch this space. We might find out more. So there is some good news. And in London, the Michaela School in Wembley, which is a very good school. It's been
German school?
No.
What does Panellists refer to?
It's a secular school.
Oh, okay.
And it's the head teacher is Catherine Birbal Singh. She obviously her ethnicity is Sikh, but I don't think she's.
I think she's mixed heritage, actually, Sikh and something else, but I'm not sure what it is.
Yes, well, her name is Sikh. Yes. Anyway, the story here is about prayer, because the school, being secular, it doesn't encourage any sort of division on the basis of faiths. Okay, although about a third of the population of the school are Muslim, and they have been pushing to try and get a prayer room, because of course their religion specifies they've got to pray 5 times a day. And she's been saying, well, we don't have accommodation. It's a crowded part of London. We don't have rooms to allocate for prayer. And they have been praying in the playground. And it's grown from 1 or 2 to about 20. And so there were all sorts of spin-off threats from Muslims who thought that the school was out of order by not providing an indoor space for this to go on. And it included threats, quite serious threats online, and also physical attacks, stones being thrown at teachers' houses and things like that. Anyway, eventually a Muslim girl, took the school to court, challenging the ban, which they had to ban any prayer ritual because of the threat to their staff. So they banned it, and she took them to court saying it's discriminatory. The outcome, which has only just arrived, is that she lost. The High Court said that it's a non-faith secondary school, and allowing prayer rituals risked undermining inclusion amongst the pupils.
Yep.
That's good, isn't it?
You know what I like most about this report? It's not so much the fact that she lost, it's the fact that we use the mechanisms of civilized society, imperfect though they might be, to resolve this matter. I love the idea that this girl had the Muslim girl had the courage of her convictions to take this thing to court,
and the court
made it, and it is obviously within her rights to appeal. Guy, you know the UK legal system much better than I do. But what I like most, and I want to be emphatic about this, if she had, if the court had decided otherwise, I would have liked to see the now the English word has left my brain. The verdict. I would have liked to see the verdict, and then the other side could have appealed, and that is what we need in a civilized society.
Exactly. Yes.
Because so that's what I like, and of course, being atheist and advocating for no imposition of religion in public life. I agree with the court's decision, but it might have been otherwise. And I want to state just again emphatically, and you can make a clip of this because I think that's the message that needs to be sent out there. Let's act like civilized people and use the mechanisms that we have to address these issues. Let's not begin stoning or setting ourselves alight or attacking people with knives or whatever, because that doesn't resolve anything, you know.
No, absolutely correct. I fully support that. Due process. It's taken us hundreds of years to come up with the judiciary, and it should be used, definitely. And it was used to good effect.
What do you say, Guy?
No, I agree entirely with what you've just said. Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And the good thing is, of course, it's a precedent. And so there is actually a video by the CEO of Humanism UK, which was a clip from which was in the news. I'm not showing it now, but if you want to watch the original news that this is the sister show of, it'll be visible there. And that's Andrew Copson, who came on saying that really that we want to change the rules. We've got a silly arrangement in this country where schools are technically, since the 1944 Education Act, supposed to conduct a daily religious assembly of a Christian nature, unless they are specifically a Jewish school, for example. And we're the only country that retains that law. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I think the judgment is a step in the direction of the full secularization of schools, which I think is something that's overdue, as it is for Parliament and the monarchy and quite a few other things as well. I mean, the disestablishment of the church, of course, is something we've mentioned ourselves on this program in the past quite a bit, and it's certainly not something we need in this country.
Big round of applause for this item of news. Yeah. So finally, I don't know what you'll think about this. Is a Southern Baptist church, it's a mega church, pastor who tells women how to behave on their wedding night. Watch this.
He's been planning this night his whole...
What? I don't know what happened there. Oh, it's, I think I've...
He's been planning this night his whole...
What?
Oh, God.
Let's see if you applaud this. Ladies, when you get to his wedding night, he's been planning this night his whole life. So what you need to do is stand where he tells you to stand, wear what he tells you to wear, and do what he tells you to do. You're going to make him the happiest man in the world.
So first of all, let me apologize for the incompetence of the editor. That's me. But I mean, you saw the gist of his. What do you think of that? Is that okay?
Well, it's fully consistent with patriarchy, isn't it?
Yes.
I absolutely agree. It's 100% on. It's his wedding night. You, as a woman, you are just there to make it his night. I don't see any problem with that. I fully agree. And yes, I shall now refrain from speaking since I'm the woman in the presence of two men who are my elders and betters. Therefore, I shall keep my peace and hold it now forever.
Yes, yes. Well, that's
Not.
that's what Paul said, isn't it? He said that women should not be heard. So there you go. And I sort of sympathise with that, because I think that women should be obscene and not heard.
I love that. But I just, as the only attested female on the show tonight,
Yeah.
It's something that has come to my lived experience again in the past 3 weeks. I don't know if I've mentioned it on the show. I've mentioned it in our pre-recording sessions. I do know, but I just, I'll try to stay calm, and I'll try to stay reasonable, but those of you who are watching the show, as I'm sitting here, I actually have a protection order that was granted by the court, because there was a militant Christian who felt that my activating for no religion in public spaces was completely wrong, and he acted by basically also attacking my husband. And the reason he attacked my husband was because my husband could not rein me in. And the very interesting thing about this mindset is, this person, my first engagement was with him on social media. My first response was to invite him and say, let's have a conversation about this. We can actually meet in person and have a civilized conversation. He declined to do that. He proceeded the following day to phone my husband's partners at the business, and his instruction was, my husband has to tell me to stop doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, yes. Well, you should be under the thumb, shouldn't you? You should be controlled.
I mean, how?
Yes, it's just so weird that.
Well, I mean, it's a beautiful opportunity for you to expose not just his theistic thinking, but his patriarchal assumptions
And misogyny. Yes.
And what I was really angry about was that this person accused my husband of being a coward, because my husband wasn't willing to tell me what to do.
Yes. He hasn't met your husband, has he?
He hasn't met my husband.
No.
My husband is anything but a coward.
Yeah. And he's also, what, 6'6"?
Yes. Okay. Yes. But besides that, it's patriarchy is also damaging to men. It's not only damaging to women, because a man who has the sense of his own personhood and his own identity to feel comfortable with his wife doing what lights her fire, that man is now called a coward because he has to rein in his wife. It's his wedding night.
Such bonkers thinking.
Okay, so that is me. I've said my
well, I
piece.
mean, I think it's beautiful the way he's just exposed himself as for what he is.
Yes.
And hopefully everybody can see that and understand that why it's just wrong.
Yes.
Yeah.
There you go.
So do I.
So on that note, before your head of steam explodes, Tersia.
No, I've gone completely calm. I'm sitting in the cool autumn breeze under an almost full moon, looking out. It's so peaceful. It's beautiful.
So get a glass of that South African wine and take it easy.
And I want to say that I have chosen but despite the fact that I don't have free will, I have been fortunate to have been surrounded by men like the two of you and the husband that I married. My father, I know, I will say that fortunately, the majority of men that are a presence in my life have enough respect for themselves not to feel this pressing need to control another person because they are of different sex. And I would that is encouraging, and
thank
that
you.
is yes.
But I don't think it's just sex, because I bring you back to the story you told at the beginning about meeting. I can't remember whether that was pre-recording or post-recording, but you told about meeting this lovely woman on the on the flight.
Yes.
And how she was impressed by your camaraderie, your inclusiveness, you're just openly friendly.
We were just being nice human beings.
Yes, exactly. Yes. It doesn't cost much to be a nice human being. And I think you're more likely to find it with people who are not religious, who haven't been indoctrinated with the bigotry and misogyny that they're supposed to exhibit thanks to their religious doctrine. That's where it's all going wrong.
It does make it much easier to just be open-minded when you have not been indoctrinated. You don't have to fight the dogma. You can just be in the world, and that is what I wish for everybody, because I'm very naive. I still maintain that most human beings basically just want to get along and live their lives, and I think that religion contributes to making that harder for all of us.
Yes, indeed. On that note, thank you
Guy,
very
you
much.
have to say something in closing. Guy has to say something.
No,
in closing.
that's fine. I agree with all of that. That's spot on.
Good. So there you go. You see, you can agree. We don't have to be in our tribal pockets fighting each other like they do in other parts of the world where they have fundamental religion. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you.
Guys.
Cheers. Bye.
Thank you. Say goodbye.
Was the Pope appealing for peace, or was he praying for peace?
And the same applies to the carry-on drag.
Yeah, that's a good question. So what do you have to say about that, guys?